Hello and welcome back. We are off of our 3-month hiatus.
Took a hot sec, but we back.
We back, and this is in fact You Don't Look It.
I know, believe it or not, we're still
Believe
here.
it or not, this is still us, and we are actually continuing with this podcast. Who would have thunk?
Yeah, I know, seriously. What have you been up to, Danny, in this long ass break we have had?
So I listened to the raw before we release episode 6, and I realized that we left off after the tornado.
Oh,
So it has since been 3 months since I was hit with a tornado.
that's insane.
We still don't have a fence anywhere on our 1-acre property because all the trees took them down. We have no trees left. I now have
Rude.
a severe fear of storms.
That's understandable.
Yeah, so stressing myself out about storms is what I do now. And I've started school again.
Ooh, how is it?
So yeah, I'm taking 3 classes. I probably should be taking 5, but we're still in COVID.
You gotta do what you can. Don't want to overwork yourself either.
Yeah, and I'm doing my senior seminar, which is kind of like a thesis, not a thesis paper. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like that big paper you need to do to graduate.
Yeah, I did that too. I had a senior research project thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but for the psych department, it's like a giant lit review, and you pick a subject.
Oh God, I fucking hate lit reviews.
Yeah, I hate it too. And I'm doing mine on diabulimia.
I'm trying to think what I did mine on. I think I did mine on women and crime or something. I don't know, because I was forensic psychology.
Yeah, no, that's a good one too, though, because the crimes that women's women commit, the crimes that women commit and why they commit them and how they commit them is very different from men, and I find that very interesting.
It is very true.
And it's not like a one-off thing, that it's pretty consistent that women commit crimes differently.
Yep. Yeah, no, I very much enjoyed learning about that. I kept a couple of my textbooks because I found them so interesting.
I wish I could say the same.
None of my textbooks from my first school did I keep. Well, I kept one because I had to buy it, and they wouldn't take it back.
And you can't get rid of it.
Right.
I'll keep the DSM-5 because I'm going to need that.
I need my own copy. I don't need it, but I want it because
it's so interesting. I love it.
I know, because we got free access to it for our classes because we needed to use it and read it, but that access is now gone. So
yeah, such is graduation. I'm actually terrified to graduate. I don't know about you or anybody else out there, but I'm scared of what I do next after I graduate.
I have last time, I don't know if it was the last episode or the episode before, I was like, I'm gonna apply to graduate school, and I was like, I still need to write my personal statement. Well, that's done and over. And I've already heard back from both the schools, and I got accepted into both of them. University of Edinburgh in Scotland, which I'm pretty proud of because it's one of the top schools in the world, for their master's in social justice and community action. And then I also got into the University of Salford, which is in England, for their master's in psychology of coercive control. So I'm currently in a conflict because in high school I was in all the advanced and quote gifted classes. So my mind has always told me, oh, you need to be prestigious and you need to do what looks best. Whereas following my heart would be going to Salford. So
okay, follow your heart though, because every single time that I have done something because my mother told me it would look good, or somebody told me it would look good, or that it would help me be more marketable or more hireable, I've hated it. I've had a horrible time.
Great.
And yeah, no, and also the science of the psychology of coercive control. Not only does that sound super cool, but it also kind of sounds like they're going to teach you how to waterboard somebody.
Honestly, possibly. But yeah, no.
It sounds like torture to me.
That one I'm excited for because, yeah, it does sound like they teach you that. But it's one of the only 2, I think, in the world. And I think the other one was in France and it was taught in French. So it wasn't really an option for me.
Not really accessible.
Yeah. And so it covers human trafficking and cults and stuff like that, which is my priority and my specialization. So That's my hope.
Do it.
I'm waiting to hear back from them about some stuff and making sure they approve my loan, which will put me into great debt. But as my friend always says, the one Honor, who made our logo, actually, she always says, don't think of it as debt. Think of it as an investment in yourself and that you're totally worth it. So
She's right.
I know. So I'm like, okay, I remind myself of that. It's a good point. For the longest time, I was like, okay, I'm not going to go to grad school because that shit's expensive and I don't want to be in debt. But I'm like, okay, follow your dreams and like I'll be more hireable with a master's anyways, because in psychology a lot of times they want you to have a master's for no matter what you do in the field. So
yeah, because a lot of it requires specialty study that can't really be covered with a bachelor's degree as it stands. I totally believe though that like you should be able to learn enough with a bachelor's degree in psychology to do something.
yeah,
Maybe not treat patients, but like
right.
something a little more than working as like a nurse in a psych hospital.
I agree. Yeah, no, completely.
Like I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think that you could feasibly in 4 years learn enough
Oh
to
yeah,
do something else with it.
I totally agree for sure. And
So
yeah,
yeah.
but so that's what's been up. Trying to think if anything else has happened. Oh, I'm watching a cat for the summer.
Yeah, till like September.
Yeah.
Like,
I've been watching her since late June, so I've had her for a while, but she hasn't been mentioned on here because I haven't had her since we recorded. She's a gem. Her name is Noelle. She's not in the laundry basket right now, but she's near me somewhere in the basement.
she's lurking.
Love her. She's a queen. But yeah, I feel like not really much has happened. I mean, quarantine technically is over, but COVID's not. So, I mean, I'm still staying home most of the time.
Oops, sorry, I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
It's all
that was
good.
my phone vibrating.
I did that last time.
Yeah, I hate when that happens too because it sounds like a fart.
That's true.
Like, I don't know. It's happened before in class where it was like between my thigh and the chair, and it sounded like a really bad fart, and I was like, oh,
I'd be
no.
so uncomfy.
God, I just remember this one time in high school where I was mortified. I was in a completely quiet classroom, and like it was completely full, and I sat down in my seat, and I was wearing a skirt that was like, mid thigh, like kind of short. Yeah. And I put my legs completely together to sit down so I didn't like flash anybody. And my like thigh fat like came down together at the same time, and the air came up between my thighs and made a really bad farting noise. And I was like, no. And everyone stared at me, and I was like, no.
Oh gosh.
And God, this class was even worse because I was always on Tumblr in class.
Yeah.
And you know how you'll follow like Tumblr blogs that are like aesthetic or like they're all memes, and then one day it turns into a porn page, and you're like, what happened? And you have to unfollow them. Well, because I was always on Tumblr, there was occasional porn from accounts that were not porn accounts last time I followed them.
Right.
And so everybody thought I was watching porn in the class.
Oh my gosh.
Because the guys behind me were really nosy, and they always looked over my shoulder. And then I didn't realize that until maybe like a few days after that had started. And I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no, I go to a private Christian school and you're all
oh god.
Fuck me.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. No, sir.
It wasn't a good time. I had a really bad time. We'll have more. Actually, we have a story from that school today.
Today? I thought you were telling me.
Well, okay. She went to that school. This is where I met her.
Gotcha. Okay, give me the deets. What's this story?
Okay, so my story today is the blindness incident. Where I didn't think that name up very well. This happened recently, like not even a week ago. So
yes,
I haven't had time
remember
to.
This.
Yeah, I haven't had time to tell this story to the point where I have it down to a script and have a good, clever name for it. But I will. Oh, I will.
So, I'm ready for it.
Backstory on this. I dated this girl in high school, and we dated for like a year, maybe a little longer. And like I'm doing everything I can to protect her privacy. I'm not going to tell you guys any identifying features or her real name. Um, she did. So when I met her, she went by she, her, and then she started going by they, them. And then when we broke up, she was going by she, her. So I haven't talked to her since. So I'm assuming that these are still her pronouns. So that's what I'm going to go with because none of our friends hang out with each other. So I have
Gotcha.
no reason. I have no way to know.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking her up.
That's
Sorry.
fair. No, that's fair.
Anyway, we had a really toxic relationship, and my family didn't know I was a lesbian, and
Fun
my
stuff.
sister fun stuff, as they do, and my sisters knew, and they went to school. They went to the same high school with me because I'm 23. My next sister Meredith is 22, and is 20. So we're all like back to back.
I
and
did
so
not
all, like,
realize that Meredith was older than me.
Yeah,
Only by a year.
only by a year,
But damn.
yeah. So we're all like together. So all
Yeah.
of our friends know each other. We all know each other's friends, and like we're like we're all basically the same age.
Yeah.
And my youngest sister, is kind of homophobic.
Oh,
And
of course. Great. We love that.
yeah, and so she was blackmailing me at the time, and
What
was
a
like,
bitch. Oh my
if
god.
you don't do this, I'm gonna tell mom you're gay, and then you're gonna be homeless. And I'm like, cool, okay.
What the fuck?
So what I did was I dumped a girl that I was dating before. I'm gonna call her Molly.
Okay.
We're gonna call this girl Molly. So the girl I was dating before I started dating Molly, I actually really liked, and I thought she was really nice, and I still to this day feel really guilty about how things ended.
Let's find her.
Yeah, I don't. I thought about apologizing to her a few times, but I'm like, that's just not appropriate. Like, what if I just bring up bad memories? Let's just leave her alone.
Damn it.
Anyway, so I started dating Molly to. Well, I did like her. It wasn't just for this reason, but also because I wanted to shove it in his face and be like, "Oh, you think I care? I don't care if I die. You think I care? No. No, yes, I'm gay. Here it is, out in the open.
Here it is,
Take a
bitch.
gander."
Take a gander.
And see, the other girl that I was dating, like, she wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
And her parents were, like, it was not safe for her.
Gotcha.
And I didn't care if I died, so I wasn't about to pull her into that.
Right.
Because I was also, like, not mentally in a great place in high school. So I dumped her, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do this with you because I don't want to fuck up your life.
That's fair.
But Molly had nothing to lose from people knowing she was gay because her parents didn't care. And neither did anybody else in her family. So I was like, okay, let's go. Let's rumble.
Let's rumble.
And take you down. Molly was also, like, pretty abusive.
Oh.
She also had her
So
own
is
mental
Molly
health
the
stuff.
center of the story?
Yes.
Okay. She's not the one. She's not the one you apologize or you want to apologize to?
No.
Okay.
No, that's somebody else. And Molly had a lot of mental health issues, and
relatable.
Like, that's not an excuse for the things that she did.
No.
But it is an explanation, and
exactly.
it is why. Yeah, and it is why I, like, had a lot of grace with it and was like, okay, I understand that you're really struggling, and like you may not actually mean to be hurting me right now.
Right.
And so I gave her a lot of leeway, and I didn't realize that she was using that to actually be abusive.
What the hell? Ugh, people are trash.
Because it was like she was, like, taking advantage of it, of me being like, okay, I know you're suffering right now, so I'm not gonna, like, hold it against you.
Screw that.
Yeah. So this is turning into me, like, airing all my relationship garbage, which isn't what this story is about. This is just it's just a backstory. Anyway, so we broke up, and it was pretty nasty. And she went around telling everybody I abused her, and I was like, I'm not even gonna. And like, people knew it wasn't true, but I was like, I just don't care anymore. I just want you to go the fuck away.
Yeah.
Just go I don't care anymore. Say whatever you want to say. Go away from me. And that's what we did. And I was just like, good, go away from me. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And I have seen her a handful of times since. I saw her once at my art teacher's retirement party.
Do you still live in the same town?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's actually dating Ever's ex-boyfriend. It's weird. It's
That
weird.
is odd.
I can go into that another time because it's a whole thing. That's a whole other thing. And it's weird. Anyway, occasionally she would try to get back into my life and like talk to me and hang out, and I was like, no, please go away from me.
Ugh.
And Meredith actually saw her in Second and Charles, which is a secondhand chain bookstore we have in the South. I don't know if you guys have it up there.
No, I've never heard of it.
And she was there with her boyfriend, and she saw Molly and Ever's ex-boyfriend. And I guess they were there on a date or something. And my big was also working there at the cashier. And she saw Meredith approaching Molly, like ready to fight her.
Oh, yeah!
Like ready to fucking throw down.
Feral, so.
Meredith is feral, and you don't have to ask her. If somebody is mean to you, she'll attack them ruthlessly.
What an icon.
And literally had to grab her and pull her out of the Second and Charles screaming. She was like, no, I'm going to take her down. And my big saw it, and my big didn't know who my sister was. And she's like, I had purple hair at the time, and Meredith doesn't. And she was like, I just saw a girl that looks just like you try to fight some other girl in the store. And later I found out that was my sister.
That's so funny. What an icon. What a queen.
I love her to death, dude. Oh. She's so feral, and like I'm so lucky to have somebody like that in my life.
She's
like
such a jam.
She's fantastic.
Jam.
She's great. So that was the last interaction I ever had with Molly until recently. So I had taken Ivor to the mall, and we were practicing and we were training, and he was wearing his leather mobility harness.
Yep.
And we do something called FMP, forward momentum pull, which basically just helps with stability. It helps me get upstairs. It helps pull me off the floor if I fell. It looks like guiding, where he walks out in front and I hold onto a handle, but it's not guiding.
Right.
But a lot of people do think I'm blind when it happens. So we were in there and we were practicing, and he was really picking it up that day and was actually starting to really get it for the first time. And I decided to stop by the bubble tea place, as I do right before we finish our training. And I had already gotten to the line, and there were people lining up behind me, and I saw who I thought was Molly. And I was like, that can't be Molly. She has pink hair, and I'm pretty sure Molly's head is shaved, because I had heard a while back from somebody and she shaved her head, and
yeah,
it looked bad. I don't care.
And it looked bad.
And it looked bad. Whenever somebody has dirt on her, they come to me with it, and I'm like, guys, I actually would like rather you not talk about her at all. But thanks.
But
thanks for shitting on her, I guess. Unprompted. God. The tea. Like, I really don't care if she shaves her head. I really don't.
Oh my God. Oh my
and
God,
then I remembered, oh, that was last year. And then I was like, oh no, that's her. And I looked at her, and I looked at her real good, and I was like, oh no, that's her.
No.
And she was there with a friend. And
did you know the friend?
She like glanced at me. I didn't know her friend.
Okay.
Which is why I thought it was some random high schooler.
Gotcha.
And she kind of like side glanced at me and then glanced away really fast. I'm like, oh no, she knows it's me. And so I ordered my tea, and I grabbed it. And then I don't know what possessed me. What in the fucking world possessed me? But my brain goes, pretend you're blind.
No.
Like, that's how you're going to get out of this. If you pretend you're blind, she can't speak to you. If you pretend you're blind, she can't interact with you. I don't know why. Don't ask. The only way that would ever make sense is if I were deafblind, and I clearly was not deaf. So, like, even then, she could still interact with me, so I don't know what I was thinking. So...
YOLO!
I don't know. I grabbed Ivar's harness, and I told him to go forward and get me the fuck out of there. And I just pretended to be blind, and I just had him guide me out of there.
What a man.
And then I didn't park where I normally parked, because I was trying to practice with, like, around different environments.
Yeah.
And there was, like, a alarm going off on, like, a car that we parked near, and I was using it as a novel environment.
Yeah.
And so I forgot where I parked, and I had to pass her several more times.
No.
And I had to keep continuing to be blind, because I couldn't, it's been done. I have to keep up the act now, or I'll look stupid. I probably look stupid anyway, but I might as well keep it up, or I'll look even stupider.
God.
So I ran into her again face to face, and I just like 1,000-yard stared straight through her, like I didn't even see her, didn't even flinch, and just kept going forward. Ivor had to like move around, like circle around them, like
what a man.
and this was the first time he actually really got FMP. If he didn't, this entire plan hinged on the fact that my dog might understand what I'm asking him to do.
Oh my god.
I don't think he really, like, I wasn't 100% sure he was going to get it. I thought I was just going to look really stupid.
And he pulled through.
He pulled through, and I'm so surprised because like the next day too, he was really confused and like didn't 100% get it either.
Yeah.
When we practiced the next day, and I'm like, boy, you knew what you
it was
you knew
it
you
was
got
life or
me out of
death
there.
right there.
He knew it was like life or death. You do it or I just it spontaneously combust. I don't know.
Right.
Implode. And eventually I got to my car and I was just like, honestly, if I were not so full of panic and fear, I would have laughed my ass off.
Oh yeah, I feel that.
Like I would have just died laughing. But thank God. Like
That's
oh my God.
Oh my god. Did she like look at you each time?
She looked at me. She was trying not to look at me though. Which means that I'm not sure if she actually thought I was blind or like thought I was sighted and was just looking straight through her. Either way, it's fucking funny. Like
God. I'm so impressed with Ivar.
Me too. Honestly, he's such a champ. I shit on him all the time. But he's honestly not that bad. Like I give him so much shit, but my standards are actually like stupidly high.
Yeah.
Like I look at some of these videos of like guide dogs from like Guide Dogs for the Blind or like The Seeing Eye or Mira, like really good foundations, and I'm like, I'm expecting my dog to be better than that. And he's a rescued husky with broken teeth, like, and he's probably backyard bred. And I'm like, okay, you need to like, you're way up here, and you got to take it down like 5 notches. Like,
no, I feel that. Because like,
it's like
Rudy will make a mistake, and it'll be the most minor thing, and I'll be like, ugh. He's not doing well. And then like someone else's dog will make the same mistake. I'll not like be like, I didn't even notice that. And it's like
right?
It's like, why am I holding my dog to such extreme standards if it's not something I see an issue with in anyone else's service dog? Like
I know, and I gotta start thinking like that too, because like I remember we did a meetup once and Ivar was in the way of another dog trying to task and the other dog barked at him and I didn't think anything of it and she felt terrible. And I'm like, I get it, because I would have felt terrible too. But I'm like, also at the same time, I'm like, yeah, my dog was in the way. And her dog got frustrated. And they're living creatures and they get frustrated.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'd expect
like,
it.
And he got in the way of him doing a job she was asking him to do. So I'm like, yeah, no, it makes sense to me.
It's fair. Gosh, what a terrible, terrible time to see your ex. So proud of Ivar, though, for pulling through like a champ.
Oh, sorry, he's down there itching again. Okay, he's done itching.
That was an experience I never want to have. Honestly, iconic the way you chose to handle it.
Yeah, I don't know what possessed me. I do that shit all the time though, where it's like there's a logical choice here, and it's to pretend like she doesn't exist and just get your tea and leave. But no, I had to go a step further with that and go, I'm blind. I can't see her. She can't interact with me. Like, bitch. What?
Bitch, what?
What? Like, you didn't have to. Why are you so much?
Oh my god. I feel that, though. I feel like I would make some weird irrational decision in that sort of situation.
And I do that shit all the time, and I'm like, you're taking all these extra steps, bitch. Like, it's not necessary. Like,
you're making it harder for yourself.
You, like, yeah, and then I'm like, you have to keep up this act now. Like, now you have no other choice but to continue pretending you're blind. Every time you see, I guess not every time I see her, but if she bought it, I don't know.
I think your karmic punishment for pretending to be blind was that you had to see her like a dozen fucking times.
Yeah, honestly, like, and I didn't expect to run into her in the pandemic anyway, because I'm like, last time I remember, she was not in very good health.
Gotcha.
And like they didn't know what it was. So I mean, it's been years. It's literally been like 5 years. So they might know by now, but still didn't expect to see her out in the pandemic.
Right. Oh, yeah, no. Oh my
Probably
gosh,
didn't
sorry.
expect to see me out in the pandemic. Haha.
Surprise, bitch.
Surprise, bitch. I'm out there.
Oh my gosh. Well, I enjoyed that story.
Thank you. I enjoy it after the fact.
Yes, no, I feel that. I would hate it during the fact.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
my
not the
gosh.
best.
Okay. Well, I have a Gucci story for you.
Hit me with it.
So, this story was a request by one of our listeners, also known as my brother. And so the family's really coming in strong. We got my mother as our only patron, and then my brother giving us suggested stories.
Look at them go, though. My
I
family
know.
doesn't even know this exists.
I love that. Oh my
I can't
gosh.
let them know, though, because I speak about them poorly
Oh, true.
in many of these stories. Except for Meredith. Meredith knows, though. Meredith is a champ.
She's a queen and a half. Okay, so this requested story is of Tituba the Witch. Have you heard of Tituba?
Are we back in Greece?
God,
no. No, we're not.
We're in Salem.
Oh, I know this bitch.
You know this bitch?
Yeah.
So my brother likes to call her Bitchuba, for funsies.
Oh, well.
I know.
Good segue.
So Tituba. So not much is known about Tituba before she came to America as a slave. So Tituba was thought to be born in the mid-1670s in either South or Central America before being brought to Barbados as a child. So it's believed that Tituba was part of a Native American tribe that was based in both South America and Central America, known as the Arawak natives. And so she was thought to be part of that tribe before she was captured and brought to Barbados as a slave. So many people actually believe that Tituba was Black or African American or of African American descent, as this is how she's depicted in a lot of books and movies, and just not properly depicted in history. But this has been contradicted by many historians nowadays. So they have come to realize that she was most likely of South American or Central American descent and not African American or Black. So that's a good thing to know, because most people know her as Tituba, the Black Witch, and it's like, that's not accurate. And so in the 1680s, Tituba was bought and brought to America by a Puritan named Samuel Parris, who would then go on to be a Puritan minister in Salem, Massachusetts. So not too much is known about Tituba outside of what has been written in court documents, which has led to her story being exaggerated and fictionalized by various books and TV shows. I remember American Horror Story Coven. They briefly mentioned her, but one of the witches was like a descendant of Tituba. And I know that Tituba is mentioned in the Crucible and stuff like that. So very much her history is fictionalized. But what we do know about her comes mainly from the court documents. So this is what we do know about Tituba. So when she went to Massachusetts with Samuel Parris, she worked on his property as a slave with her main job. Well, so she didn't work. She just, forced into working as a slave. As they do.
So it's not really a job.
It's not really a job. With her main job being cooking and then taking care of Samuel Parris's children. So in 1692, Samuel Parris's daughter Elizabeth Parris, who was 9, and his niece Abigail Williams, who was 11, started to break out in these random fits. So it is believed that the two girls would attempt to tell their own fortunes using a cup of water and then egg whites, and they drop the egg whites into the cup of water, and it would show like symbols to tell their fortunes. Very odd. Don't know who thought of that.
First of all, okay, I'm not a witch. I don't practice Wicca. I do not practice hoodoo, voodoo, or any other closed practice that I am not a part of. But, however, I do still like to study these things.
Yeah.
And I have my own practice that I developed through trial and error. And that do be fake to the best of my knowledge.
That
to the
do be
best of my
fake.
knowledge, that do be fake. Now, obviously, there's plenty of things of practice out there that I know nothing about
Yeah, no,
because
I feel
I'm
that.
still researching, and there is like literally decades worth of things to research out there.
It's true.
But from what I do know, from the sounds of it, that do be fake.
That do be fake. So these little children would attempt to tell their own fortunes, which was a huge motherfucking sin in Puritan religion. So already bad. So Tituba was thought to have baked and fed the girls a witch cake, which was made of rye and urine. So tasty.
Ew.
And it's thought either she did it to help the girls see their fortune, sort of thing, or she was being witchy.
You could just use tarot cards.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that's what they're
probably a
for.
bigger sin than fucking dropping egg whites into a cup of water.
I know, but do you also want to drink horse, or I guess eat horse urine?
Who said
Like,
it was horse? I don't know. It could have been her own.
I'm sorry, horse urine is actually used in some practices, so I
So
just assumed it was
honestly,
horse urine.
I wouldn't be surprised. They didn't specify in any of the articles I read. So she possibly fed him a witch cake. She said she did.
I've also never heard of a witch cake. Not to say that's not real, but I really don't think that that's a thing.
This is what history.com told me, so I'm just
Oh, I
repeating.
know. I'm just saying that like this could be wild accusations from the girls.
Oh, true. So when the fits did not stop, Samuel Parris called the doctor, and it was determined that the girls must have been victims of witchcraft because what other explanation was there?
Until they execute Tituba and they turns out they just have epilepsy.
Oh my god. So they were the first in Salem to suffer from this, quote, disease of witchcraft. So the Puritans were very
I'm sorry,
superstitious.
that's my mother's dog again.
Eddie, what a hoe.
Okay, sorry. Go
That's the Puritans were very superstitious. I remember learning about the Puritans in history class so many damn times. But they were very superstitious and believed in the supernatural. So when there was no obvious explanation for the girls' behavior, it had to be witchcraft. They're like, there must be some supernatural explanation for this because we can't see an obvious medical explanation. So it is now believed that the fits were actually most likely caused by contaminated rye that they had eaten at some point, whether it was from the witch cake or something else, I don't know. But they believe it was that because there was nothing known about microbial contamination.
Actually, it's believed that a lot of people in the Middle Ages hallucinated because of moldy bread.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's what I thought. I was like, yeah, when I read that, I was like, oh, contaminated rye. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like, from what I've read.
They actually think that the, like, they're not sure on this, obviously, it's still a theory, but they think that the plague in Egypt that killed all the firstborn sons, that's, like, recorded in the Bible,
Yeah.
Is because there was a famine and they were feeding all the firstborn sons the best food, so they would get all the bread that was moldy and gone bad, and all the grain that had gone bad, and so naturally all the firstborn sons got sick and died.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
That's wild. The more you know.
Right?
That's very interesting.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, so they thought that it was like nowadays people figured, oh, it was probably contaminated rye or like just bad food.
Yeah.
But of course they didn't really know about that back then. So they were like, witchcraft.
I didn't know contaminated rye could give you seizures though, or like
I don't know. Well, they just said fits, which is basically
yeah. Usually fits means like a seizure or something.
They
know?
also said they were barking like dogs. So I mean,
it's probably coughing. Honestly, it's probably really raspy
true.
coughing.
Oh god. So yeah, honestly, and it could have just been exaggeration as well, because a lot of the girls in the Salem Witch Trials were just fucking awful people and would pretend.
Yeah.
So it's possible. But yeah, so this time around I'm covering just Tituba, but I think at one point maybe I will cover more of the Salem Witch Trials as a whole, but we shall see.
I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be snazzy. So they believe that. So Samuel Parris figured that Tituba must be to blame because she was always with the girls. She was the main person taking care of the kids, and his niece was always over and she was always with them. So he decided to beat her and get her to confess, which she did. And she was like, yeah, I fed the
Yeah,
girl.
just to make the beating stop.
I know, exactly. And so she was like, yes, I fed the girls a witch cake. So Tituba became the first woman accused of witchcraft in the Salem Witch Trials, and was brought to trial along with two other women, both who are white, named Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne.
Should I
So
kill every woman named Sarah out there? To
a
take 'em out.
woman. No, I'm just kidding. Um, so the women accused of witchcraft tended to be those in marginalized groups, or those could be seen as outsiders. And men were accused too, but a lot of times it was women. Um, so it was actually, I had to read this a couple times, and I read it in a few different places because I was a little confused. But I guess as a slave and a person of color, Tituba was seen as a very unusual target for being accused of witchcraft.
Is there a reason for that?
I guess it was mostly because they would pick people who were kind of on the outside of their society, but who are also part of their society, sort of, whereas the slaves were just kind of not really seen as people. But I don't
Which
know.
is weird
It
because
was weird.
like most of what they would consider witchcraft is like hoodoo, which and voodoo, which came over from Africa or has
Right.
African roots. So that's like very odd to me because
It
like
was very odd.
because I always thought Tituba was a black woman, which is why I was like, okay, that makes sense. She was practicing like her native practice, and they just assumed it was like devil work and just killed her.
Right. So, yeah, so apparently it was unusual for a person of color to be a target of accusations of witchcraft. And it was mostly people in the Puritan society. So it was often people who were in marginalized groups or were seen as outsiders or deviants. And so Sarah Good uh, challenged Puritan values, and she was also super impoverished, and she depended on her neighbors to survive. So they believed that depending on her neighbors and being impoverished would make her jealous and more likely to turn to witchcraft. So they targeted her. And then Sarah Osborne deviated from social norms, and when her husband died, she married an indentured servant. And instead of giving the house and land to her sons like her first husband wanted, she kept it for herself and her current husband. So that was a big no to
Well,
everyone.
that makes sense because if your husband is an indentured servant, he probably doesn't own anything.
Right.
Which means that you still need somewhere to live. Like,
Right. No, exactly. And so because she was doing things that were out of the norm, she was also, accused of witchcraft. So all the people who tended to be accused of witchcraft were people who challenged Puritan views, or were just kind of on the outside, whether they were poor or, they did things that were unusual or progressive. And I think another reason, I don't know, but I think maybe another reason that it wasn't common for necessarily a slave to be, or a person of color, which, I mean, the slaves were typically people of color, whether they were Native Americans or African Americans. And I think a possible reason that they weren't as commonly accused is because a lot of times they very much took the religion of their, like, the person who owned slaves. So I know
yes, indoctrination. Let's
exactly.
force them to be
Yes,
Christian.
forced indoctrination.
Rip them away from their native religions and practices.
And I remember reading that it was a huge shock to everyone that Tituba had admitted to being a witch or practicing witchcraft, because when the girls were sick, she constantly prayed for them and prayed with the family, and she was always, they liked her, and she was, there was a good as good as a relationship there could be in that scenario,
Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
were
and she
shocked.
probably really did actually care for the girls.
From the sounds of it,
Like,
she did, and she took good care of them. And
I know in a lot of situations, it's like, you know, the kids never like did anything to you. They didn't like rip you away from your family or force you
Right.
to like convert to a different religion. They're just children.
Exactly. Um, so at this point, she's in her early 20s. A lot of the depictions of Tituba are her being an older woman, but all of this happened, like, she was taken from Barbados and brought back to America in her teenage years. Yeah, her teenage years. And so this is probably her early 20s. Um, and so yeah, like I said, a lot of the people accused of witchcraft are people who are on the outside of society.
It's like Puritans just want to take themselves down. Like,
I know, seriously, they were very paranoid. Um, and
it's probably
so,
why they didn't last long.
fucking ain't that the damn truth? So they took the three women, the two Sarahs and Tituba, to a trial, and both Sarahs, Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, were like, "No, we're not witches." They're completely denied it. Whereas Tituba was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm a witch," and admitted to witchcraft. And she gave an intense
Why?
ass confession. I honestly, I think you'll hear more, but I think she knew what she was doing.
Do you
Um,
think it's like a psychology thing where,
yes.
like, they force somebody to confess and then they start believing it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. You'll hear
Yeah.
it. So she confessed. She gave an intense confession, and people were like, "The fuck?" So she explained how the devil came to her and threatened her into doing his bidding. She said she learned witchcraft from a voodoo priestess in Barbados. She said she signed the devil's book and that she saw the two Sarah's names in there. And when she was asked by other people in the courthouse, like, who else's name did you see? She was like, "Oh, the devil made me blind and wouldn't let me see all of the names." And so she kept enough information to herself, or quote information that she had, but gave them enough to intrigue them and concern them. So she was like, "Yeah, these two Sarahs are 100% witches." She's like, "But I don't know who the others are right now. The devil hasn't told me yet." And
Oh, so she was trying to stay alive.
mm-hmm. And so she was very selective with the information she revealed. She did a good job.
Smart.
Yes. She accused the Sarahs of witchcraft. She explained how the devil had brought large dogs, cats, and rats, as well as this furry two-legged creature. And they would tell her what to do and how to serve the devil. And she also explained how the women would use, like, they rode sticks to travel from town to town.
Ah, yes. This
Yes,
is where brooms come from.
exactly. And so she told such an embellished and elaborate story, but she kept enough a secret, such as like the names of the other witches in town, that people wanted to keep her alive as her confession was too important. And they're like, okay, we need to know what else she has to say. We like everything she said so far is crazy, like intense. We believe her. Um,
I'm sorry, but like when you say they're traveling on broomsticks, I would be like, okay, that's not. But that's a little much, ma'am.
that's
I
a
have to
little
ask you to calm down.
Oh gosh. But so all the women were thrown into jail, and eventually Sarah Good was executed by hanging for being a witch. Um so Tituba's confessions, storytelling, and accusations brought a fuck ton of panic to the town of Salem, and as well as the surrounding areas, that people were constantly on the hunt for witches and accusing people of witchcraft. So it brought about mass hysteria.
So she kind of single-handedly started the Salem Witch Trials.
That is literally my next bullet. I said Tituba possibly single-handedly brought about the Salem Witch Trials.
She probably killed more people than would have died originally.
Oh, 100%. She truly
Or
did start the Salem Witch Trials.
had she not just like stuck with her innocence, like
Right.
so many people, like
She
this
probably
wouldn't
would
have
have been
happened.
killed, though, honestly.
Yeah,
She was the only one who
fair.
admitted.
I mean, is she not gonna get killed anyway?
You'll hear.
Okay,
You'll
go on.
So yeah, so she pretty much single-handedly made the Salem Witch Trials as intense as they were, opposed to probably a handful of people being accused. We were then left with 200 people, approximately, maybe even more, being accused and 20 being executed.
Oh my God.
I know. So Tituba was kept in jail because Samuel Parris refused to pay her bail because he's like, "You're a damn witch and you bewitched my daughter," and so he's like, "You're gonna stay there." So she
I
was
mean, that's
there.
fair.
Yeah, it is fair in those times if you thought that happened. So she stayed there for about 13 months. When she was in jail, Tituba completely recanted her statements, and she told the magistrate that she made everything up because Paris had beaten her into confessing. Fair. And
There you go. You have your explanation. Let the innocent woman go.
exactly. And so at this point, anyways, hysteria had died down, and eventually Salem had realized that it had quite overreacted and that
possibly killed tons of innocent women.
Yeah, so they were like, "Oh, we admit what we did was wrong," and they paid like reparations to the families of those who were convicted. But I mean, that doesn't.
Thank God, though.
Yes, doesn't
Like,
bring your
thank
loved
God,
ones back, but
because I mean, like, we still don't have reparations for slavery.
I know.
Like, the
Pisses
Native
me
Americans
off.
are still getting fucked over, like, constantly,
Yep.
like, to this day. I mean, it doesn't take much research, and I'm not going to go off on a rant because I will not shut up.
I feel it.
Because it really burns my biscuits. But, like, at least somebody in America got fucking reparations.
Of course, it was a fucking white person, though.
I know.
But yeah, so at least
but whatever,
some
I guess.
victim got, the reparations they deserve.
I mean, it doesn't change the fact that they killed innocent women and they didn't deserve to die. But
and they did it in such brutal ways, which I'll cover if I cover the Salem Witch Trials. But eventually, an anonymous person paid Tituba's bail, and she was released, and she subsequently gained her freedom. And so after that, she wasn't killed. She was released. She wasn't a slave anymore. So it is thought that perhaps she knew exactly what she was doing, and she lied and conned her way into her own freedom. Good for her, as she deserves. After that, nothing's really known about her after her release because she
probably went and hid.
Yeah, as a slave, she didn't have any belongings. It is believed that she was married to one of Samuel Parris's other slaves named John, and that she had a daughter named Violet. But otherwise, after her release, that is the last we know of Tituba.
Honestly, I hope she went home.
I fucking hope she went too.
I hope she got home to Barbados and just like.
I hope she got home to her native tribe.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they were still like there.
Yeah. That's true. But yeah, so wasn't a super long story, but interesting. I definitely learned a bunch because I remember always thinking that Tituba was an old black woman who was a voodoo like witch, and none of that was true. She was a very young. She was our age, and she was a native Central American, and it's just crazy how different the story is from what you're told.
Right. I mean, like, all the movies and stuff really didn't help.
Oh, yeah, no.
But, yeah. And that's so wild to me, too. Like, I don't know. I'm just amazed that she got away with it. Like, that's fucking awesome. That is some badassery.
I honestly thought I never knew she wasn't executed until I did this research.
I always thought she was, like, burned at the stake or something. Or hung.
Apparently the other Sarah wasn't killed either, which is nice.
That's good.
But poor Sarah Good was hanged. But yeah, so it was pretty crazy. I didn't realize a lot of her story. I didn't realize she was I didn't realize she was the first. I didn't realize a lot of her history. I just knew very vague amounts because, I mean, we didn't cover too much in history and stuff like that. But it was very interesting. I mean, good for her for being, like, smart and cunning her way out of slavery and getting her freedom, honestly.
Because, honestly, I probably would have just had a panic attack and then, like, not functioned and then died.
I've been stoned or drowned.
Yeah, I probably would have been drowned or something. And she was actually like, okay, we're going to think about this logically.
Right.
And we're going to at least not die. Maybe not freedom, but we're at least not going to die. Like,
exactly.
I mean, and the fact that she got all the way to freedom and, like, was able to hide from any further documentation. It's
Yeah.
pretty damn good.
Hell yeah, because if there was anything worse that happened, we'd probably hear about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought it was interesting. Like I said, not too long of a story, but a good one. Glad my brother suggested that one. I liked it.
Yeah, same. That was a good one. Shout out to your brother, whose name I do not know.
Logan.
Shout out to Logan. Oh, I did know your name, Logan. Yeah. Sorry. I just have poo brain. It's fine.
It happens. But yeah, so that was a good one. Yeah, if we like to hear suggestions. Helps get us some ideas for what we want to do. I have a list of people I want to talk about and stuff I want to talk about.
Maybe our Patreons can give us some suggestions.
Yeah.
Our good old patrons.
Mother, you want...
Hello, Mother, please, can you give us some suggestions? What do you want to hear about?
Right.
Also, shout out to our only Patreon subscriber, Lexie's mother.
Yes, Mama J, Elaine. Yes, shout out to my mother. Meant to put this at the beginning. Probably just gonna keep it here because why not? But also maybe I'll put it at the beginning because if people don't listen all the way through, at least they'll hear my mother's name.
At least they'll know my mother supports me.
So yeah, shout out to our patron of the week, Mama J, aka our only patron.
We love her very much, though. She is the only person supporting this podcast financially. Outside of us.
Outside of us, yeah. Oh, props to her. Appreciate it. She has been asking me about when's her shout out gonna come. Here it is, Mom. Here it is.
You are a star here, Elaine. Okay, you're a star. You are technically the only star.
But you
as our only subscriber. A single star.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But yeah, so if you guys want to hear some more, feel free to tune in. We're gonna finally get back to dropping episodes every Friday. We mean it this time, promise. We worked everything out. Ever is not currently a part of our team anymore because she got promoted at work, which is amazing.
Hey, somebody's a key holder.
Hell yeah.
Holds them keys.
So Ever is working hard and keeping super busy and all that. So I'm taking over editing. Sorry if it's not as good.
She's learning. It's a learning curve, okay? Like, Ever went to college for this.
Right.
Ever has those big boy smart degree dollars.
Right.
That didn't make sense. You know what I mean. She's got them programs. She's got that knowledge.
Exactly.
She can do it.
And we're still learning to use our microphones properly and not scream
I still
into
don't
them.
know how to keep back from my microphone enough to not have sound bleed over as I screech into your ear.
I literally get too hyped when I lean forward, so...
Oh, same. Like, I was getting all up in the business and I was like, hello. Oh my god.
So, audio will get better with time, folks, and editing will get better with time. But yeah, thank you. If you are still with us after that hiatus, this will be posted Friday. And yeah, if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram. Twitter, I need to get back to updating. I'm an old woman. I don't understand how to work Twitter very well, but I know it better than Danny.
I literally downloaded it once 3 years ago, and to this day, I still do not understand how it works at all. I have Googled how-tos. I went to the WikiHow.
I went to the WikiHow.
I don't get it. I just can't figure it out. I like Reddit. Okay, I got Reddit. How the fuck does Twitter work? And people tell me it works the same way. You're wrong. These
Sounds
are lies.
fake.
I don't understand it. This is no.
So if you can follow our Twitter, it's not as prime as our Instagram or Facebook, which are all You Don't Look At Podcast. I believe Twitter is You Don't Look At, like at You Don't Look At. But if you search You Don't Look At Podcast, you'll find it. If you go to our Instagram, which is You Don't Look At Podcast, and you go to the link in our bio, that will show you everything you need to get to, from all of our social media to our Patreon to our YouTube channel where you can listen, some of our streaming services, whatever you want to do, you can find it in our Instagram. And if you want to email us, whether that's to, just hit us up or, make a suggestion or...
Please hit us up. We're lonely.
Yeah, we're lonely. Then you can email us at youdon'tlookatpodcast@gmail.com. feel free to message us on You Don't Look at Podcast on Instagram if you want. We are always on. You can follow our personals, which should be linked, I believe, in our bio. But yeah, I feel like that's it. I'm trying to remember. I haven't done this in a while.
I know. I think the only thing we have to mention is that I am a slow worker, but I am in fact working on sticker designs. I swear to God.
Ooh!
I swear on my life, I may be a slow worker, but it is semi-quality work.
Hell yeah, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. Yes, and we can add that to our Patreon. So if you want to become a patron, you get some nice perks, guys, and eventually some stickers potentially.
Woohoo.
But yeah,
I'm excited.
thank you guys again for tuning in if you've stayed with us this long, or even if you're coming in now and are, binging or whatever.
Welcome to the binge.
Welcome to
We
the
appreciate
binge.
you.
We are two goddesses of chaos here to stay.
Here to stay and back on track.
Back on track.
Until further notice, unless one of us has a serious COVID illness that came out.
We are here.
We're here.
And we will edit and we will be on time. And if for some reason we're not, you can fight us.
You can fight us and
you have every right.
And get on our case. And as long as neither of us have COVID or have had surgery, then we're back on track.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in and staying with us. We'll come to you next week. I'll have to decide on a nice personal story for you, and Danny will have a fun historical one, as she always does. But yeah, we will see you again, and thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Ha 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 ha.